Several studies in the mid-1950s by the Indian government identified the need for a new high-performance jet fighter and also recognized that to protect its independence, India needed to develop its domestic aviation industry up to a more modern standard. They also accepted that they'd have to be practical and solicit some foreign help in both of those efforts. The project lead for this new fighter was Kurt Tank, the well-known German engineer, and most of the senior designers were also recruited from overseas. This succeeded in bringing in some experienced talent, but it also caused some friction. Kurt Tank in particular was either unwilling or unable to navigate the Indian bureaucracy, which led to some frequent issues with the program's funding and structure. The initial requirement was for a supersonic twin-engine fighter to compete with modern foreign designs, with ground attack capability added to the requirements pretty early in the program. But the design ran into its first obstacle: engines. India didn't have any engines of its own that were suitable and had major problems sourcing foreign engines for import. The only engines they were able to get for the plane were Orpheus 703 turbojets, which lacked afterburners. They were considered good enough to get the plane started with the intent of replacing them later, but spoiler alert, they never found better engines, and as a result, the plane remained subsonic and underpowered. There were also major political problems, which I alluded to earlier, that are far too complex to get into here. But the jet did eventually enter service with the Indian Air Force in 1967, by which point it was basically already obsolete. The doctrine for it was shifted from air superiority to strike interdiction, where it gained a reputation for reliability and being able to survive significant combat damage. In the end, the HF-24 ran into just about every problem imaginable for a jet fighter in the early Cold War era. Its fuselage design wasn't area-ruled, it never got suitable engines, and it was surrounded by scandals all the way until its phase-out and retirement in the 1980s. Still, it was the first domestically produced jet fighter in India. What we get in War Thunder is the HF-24 Marut, a strike aircraft at rank 5 with a battle rating of 9.0. This is the main prize from the grinding event in the middle of 2025. This jet has no advanced features of any kind, nor a radar set or countermeasures. Its primary armament is a set of four 30mm Aden cannons with 540 rounds of ammo. This is an enormously hard-hitting cluster of fairly good cannons, and you get 4 ammo belts to choose from. For loadouts, the Marut has 4 wing hardpoints that can take drop tanks, dumb bombs, and unguided rockets in various sizes and quantities. Plus, it has a tray launcher for some more Sneb rockets up in an internal bay. The flight performance of the Marut isn't good. There are 3 main problems here. First, it's just underpowered. There's no other way to say it. The jet is subsonic, its maximum speed in level flight isn't great, and its medium speed acceleration isn't as good as a lot of the other jets in its BR range. However, it can go supersonic in a dive without any structural problems. Second, the jet has pretty bad energy retention in most situations. You're going to lose a lot of speed trying to do aerobatic maneuvers, and anything but the most gentle of turns is going to dump some serious energy. Combined with the poor medium speed acceleration, it ends up being really hard to get that energy back. Third, the jet just doesn't pull very hard into turns even when it's at a good energy state. This has kind of a compound effect with the bad energy retention, in that you're losing a lot of energy, but you're not gaining much for it. Your best turn performance is going to be at high subsonic speeds, but the vast majority of other planes in this BR range will still outturn you. All of this combines into a very difficult flight model. You have to kind of fly this jet like an F-104 or a Tornado, but subsonic at BR 9.0. The good news is that despite all of this, the rate of climb is okay at higher speeds, it's got a decent air brake, and it can drop its combat flaps at basically any airspeed. Oh, and one last thing with the flight performance. As of making this review, the fuel slider is broken and seems to work backwards. Whoops. They'll probably fix that pretty quick, though. Taking the Marut into air battles has a lot of caveats. You get an air spawn, which is actually a huge help at this BR, and while it's not especially fast, it does have enough airspeed after you spawn in to make it to bombing targets before getting intercepted on most maps. So you can use it as a base bomber, though it can't take out a base in one pass. That's kinda where the good news ends. If you want to use this for air combat, my best advice is to use annoying vulture tactics and boom and zoom runs whenever possible. I'm not personally very good at aiming the 30mm Aidens, but the jet has a good quantity of ammo, which helps a bit, and if you're a better shot with them than I am, you can probably get some decent kills if your positioning is on point. What you need to avoid are dogfights. If somebody gets anywhere near your control zone, you're basically dead. This jet is just really bad at defensive flying, and it isn't fast enough to outrun really anything it faces. Add to this that it gets tiered into supersonic jets and semi-active radar missiles, despite not having any countermeasures or a radar warning receiver, so this might not be a very heavy hitter for you in air combat. In terms of ground attack, no ballistics computer, which really holds this jet back sometimes. Its heaviest bomb load is just shy of being able to take out a base, but sometimes the tray of snub rockets in the nose will give you a good opportunity to hit a random target as you pass by, or maybe get a pot shot on a base before someone else finishes it off. In close air support, the lack of countermeasures and its poor agility are serious problems that dramatically impact the survivability, since you can get fairly capable surface-to-air missiles thrown at you in this BR, and face radar SPAA like the Shilka. My best advice is to stay low and fast. Deploy your weapons at point-blank range, and get the fuck out as fast as you can. If you linger over a ground battle, you're begging for death. But if you do hit-and-run stuff, you can probably get some decent kills. Visually, the HF-24 is kinda weird looking. The wings look a little too small, and the rear fuselage looks a little too wide. From some angles, it's pretty sleek though, and you get a desert camo pattern for it, and there aren't any obvious issues with the 3D model. Landing the jet is fairly beginner-friendly. You can put the gear and flaps down at about 450 kilometers an hour, and there's an air brake, but no drag chute, and the brakes aren't the best. So depending on how hot you set down, you might need a lot of runway to stop. The cockpit is okay. The top part of the forward canopy bracing can kind of get in the way in air combat, but otherwise the visibility is good, and the instruments are easy to find. Fairly average VR experience. To close out on the HF-24 Marut. This jet gets an air spawn in RB, and its cannons hit incredibly hard. However, it doesn't get a ballistics computer, it'll never be a good dogfighter, it has no defensive systems or sensors of any kind, and it's completely outclassed by everything it faces in an up tier. The final verdict on the HF-24 is that this is another defenseless subsonic strike jet without a ballistics computer at a BR where it faces missiles and supersonic fighters. It can be a fun challenge trying to make a plane like this work, but it probably won't be a primary grinder for you. As always, thanks for watching, and if you like this video, the algorithm thinks you're gonna like this next one too.